Hey everybody, it's Valentine's Day again. Now it's a great time of year to hear the music and stories about the fresh budding of new romance, or the endurance of true love. And those are certainly great stories, but you know what's missing? Stories about spiders and insects and other creepy crawlies that run around our houses and our yards. And if that's what you're missing, good news. I have 6 quick stories about these little forgotten critters for your lovely, blandly romantic Valentine's Day. 1. Millipede massages. Well, let's get the awkward story out of the way first. Millipedes are awesome. They are little arthropods that crawl around the leaf litter eating rotten material. They have interesting body plans. They are long and skinny with many segments, kind of like a centipede, but they have a lot of legs. Each segment on their body has 2 pairs of legs, and with average millipedes having about 20 segments, that's a lot of legs. I only have 2 legs and I'm tripping over myself all the time, so props to them. But when these many-legged creatures come together, male and females may want to copulate. And so to do this requires a bit of coordination. To help that coordination, the male millipedes are known to give the females a bit of a massage. This doesn't really set the mood, but it does position the bodies in a way that the genitals align, which can be tricky because the genitals aren't at the end of the bodies. It's up near the front, near the head, near the front legs. So once things get aligned, things work out pretty well. Now, I said it was awkward, not because of the millipedes. Everybody gets love if they want it. No, we know how they reproduce because scientists have awkwardly figured out how to watch them. Scientists have figured out that the male genitals will glow in UV light. So scientists have captured them, shined some blue light on them, essentially UV light, and taken a bunch of pictures of them in the act. Yep, so scientists can learn a lot about various courtship and mating systems, but sometimes even the inventive aspects can be a little awkward. But you know what, props to the millipedes for getting on with it. It must be no small feat to get it done with that many feet that are potentially in the way. 2. Hold me closer, tiny spider. Okay, so the millipedes, they might not have the most elaborate courtship, maybe not the most romantic. So let's talk about the peacock spiders. Peacock spiders are a type of jumping spiders found around Australia, and the males are much more brightly colored than the females. Their abdomens, their bums, are covered with hairs and appendages that are bright blues and reds. They're quite flashy. They use this colored bum to attract females. When they see females, they will walk up in front of it and bend their bums so it's over their bodies and their heads, and then they'll just start shaking it. And as they move and groove, all these little tassels flash around catching the lights. And they're going to be hopping around and scurrying back and forth, side to side. And these vibrations of their toe-tapping beats are thought to also attract the females. And if they're lucky, the males and females will pair up. These things are really cool because they're visual, and humans are quite visual too. So if you go online, you're not going to see just pictures of brightly colored peacock spiders. You're probably going to find pictures of humans dressed up as peacock spiders, presumably as a gag, as a Halloween costume or such. And so, you know what? Props to these spiders with courtship displays that inspire humans. Note to the humans, you may want to try a different approach. But for the spiders, go on, rock on. 3. Sweet serenades. Lots of insects call out to their potential paramours. Love songs, kind of. Most famously, crickets will vibrate their legs to send out a serenade that will sweep females off their 6 feet. These calls tend to be chirp-like, but in some locations, they're a little quieter and they sound a bit more like a purring cat. In addition to crickets, male cicadas also sing after a fashion to get the attention of females, and they will do so quite loudly. Like all insects, they do not have vocal cords, so cicadas will vibrate a special organ called a timbal at the end of their abdomen. So, calling the ladies with their butts. Good job, cicadas. Proud of you. Other insects, like fruit flies and mosquitoes, will vibrate their wings in various frequencies and patterns to let mating partners know that they're the same species and ready to get down. You, as humans, may not hear them. These calls don't travel very long, but they are audible if those insects get frustratingly close to your ears. So, just imagine they're singing a song for you. 4. Silently singing. Similar to insects that advertise their availability for mating through acoustic means, fireflies send their love notes visually, kind of like a text service. But instead of getting a data plan, they have a chemical reaction that makes their abdomens light up. These flashing lights created by males identify the location and species they are and advertise that to the females. So from that perspective, as unique as the flashing lights are, there's a similar through line with the peacock spiders and the acoustic insects in that they're trying to identify which species they are and sex, and chances to advertise the right message to procreate and get, their game on. So, they're the common thread. I particularly like the fireflies, though, because these late night you up calls are essentially courtship messages without uttering a sound. Very efficient. You glow, guys. 5. Move, males, get out of the way. So, residents of honeybee and ant colonies are primarily females. When you see ants or honeybees, you're probably going to see the ladies. They are the leaders, the queens, the hunters, the warriors, the farmers in many cases. The males really stay at home. They're kept around for mating and maybe some light chores. I don't know if they ever do the dishes. Males play their role, but generally stay out of the way for most of the activity. Now, termites, on the other hand, they also have large colonies. They are more social critters, but the males make a more obvious show of their commitment to their queen. Mating and courtship happens when the males and females fly high up in the air, and they will mate while up there in public at night. Weird, but whatever. And after matings, both the males and females will settle on the ground, and the males will lose their wings. They'll just pop right off. And then they will help their queen establish the nest. So as they walk towards the nest with their queen, I'm just gonna shout out that male termites have figured out a way to turn a walk of shame into something quite a bit more productive. 6. Single life can be good. My last story here, I want to shout out to those of you who may be a little over Valentine's Day. It doesn't have to be that way. Solitary wasps know that. Solitary wasps, which usually lay eggs inside of another living host of some sort, can sexually reproduce after mating, or not. Whatever. You do you. You see, mated females will produce fertilized eggs that always turn into daughters. But females can also lay unfertilized eggs, and these will develop into sons. Yeah, so sons, unfertilized eggs, daughters from the fertilized eggs. It is a quirk of an unusual genetic situation happening with wasps, but it's really neat that the critters can have viable offspring that doesn't even need fathers. And so this is enabled in part because female wasps will have an organ called a spermatheca. and that can store sperm after mating. And they can have active control whether the spermatheca releases the sperm or not. So the female mothers have a pretty good control over whether they're going to have daughters, sons, or even if they're going to mate at all. Another interesting group of insects are the aphids. These are tiny bugs. We usually see them kind of infesting some of our crops or our houseplants. But they're neat because they've got a different genetic situation going on than the wasps, but they can also sexually reproduce after mating. But if they don't have a suitable mate, they can just clone themselves. Yeah, if a male isn't around, a female can create an identical genetic copy of themselves. These offspring will initially develop inside of their bodies, but they can be laid, so to speak, as tiny cluster of mini-me's, little live insects ready to go. And so not only does this give an appearance of live birth, which is quite rare for insects, but they create their own company of themselves, which for some can be pretty appealing, whether it's Valentine's Day or not.